The creature that haunts me so be not man nor beast. In nightmares it resides to stir one to madness with its inhuman facade. The Leviathan, its grotesque girth splitting my palms in twain, won't let me sleep, won't let me eat, won't let me live. Many men, many better than I, have tried to conquer the beast and have failed, have succumbed to the immense weight carried by its ludicrous length. Upon entering the domain of the Leviathan, I knew the risk would be great, but just how dire my situation would become had eluded my naive mind. For sanity is a fragile state of being, and the Leviathan feeds on madness. It has been a treacherous journey, one that I never wish any man to experience. The beginning was quite calm and lulled me into a state of mild merriment, but it was not long before the Leviathan reared its monstrous head and clamped down upon me with its razor-sharp teeth, dragging me down into the black recesses of oblivion. At the bottom of countless fathoms into the soundless void of madness, the Leviathan penetrated deep into my psyche. But against the overwhelming odds, I survived the relentless buggering from the Dick of Moby, and was once more birthed into the light of day. Only my world has been forever changed, and for this, I say I'll never be the man you once knew, for my quest of great literature has been forever altered, and it's with a wary eye that I shall ever venture into the pages of another classic. So I finished Moby Dick.
So, the whole first part of that, I thought you were just talking about jerking off. Because, you know, the splitting palms, and many men have tried to handle the girth, and, you know, just all that kind of stuff.
I mean, Moby Dick's pretty girthy, and the dick is right in the title. It was, do you want to know how I finished Moby Dick?
I imagine it has to be in a mad fury, because the last you told me about it, you read 4 books in the time it took you to finish this one, and you were only like halfway through.
I read 5.5 novels by the time, since I started reading Moby Dick in March, the end of March. March 22nd to be exact. I know the date because that's when I ventured into the beast. It sucked. I started off and I enjoyed Moby Dick at the beginning. And then I read half of it. And I would say after when he meets, what's that dude's name? Queequeg. Oh. He meets Queequeg, the cannibal, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And they're in like a seaside town in a pub, and they share a bed, which was kind of very homoerotic. It was very strange. And then at the beginning, like, they go on and have some mild talking and all this shit and share stories and whatever they do. But then they reach a church, and then I was after that, it was like, oh, we don't care about the Moby Dick story so much. We're going to talk about everything else. We're going to talk about fucking whales and sperm and all that shit, how to make oil, just dumb stuff.
Did they ever circle back to that stuff? To, like, the stuff that you were enjoying? Or did they just abandon it?
It was peppered in there, like, because they were all on the boat together. They got on the Pequod and in search of Moby Dick. Again, once they got on the boat, after a bunch of fucking nonsense, that's why I still kept reading, because they got on the boat. You meet Ahab, who's pretty cool, and then Starbuck, the first mate, and you're like, okay, I'm invested again. Then he goes into stories about other fucking people and other adventures. And you're like, what is happening? Needless to say, I got to chapter 62. I decided I was just going to listen to an audiobook. That's how I was going to finish. I could not read it anymore. I'll listen to it.
I would think listening would be worse. Just from like the...
You would be correct. After seeing how long it would take to listen to the second half of Moby Dick, which was like fucking 20-something hours or more, I decided to skip to chapter 133 because that's the beginning of the chase. There's 3 chapters of the chase and then the epilogue, so that's how it ends. So I skipped roughly, 70-something chapters? I was on 62, so to 133, I just skipped all of it, and you know what? You don't miss anything! It just kept going. Like, where it picked up was just like, I didn't miss anything. I was like, what the fuck were in those chapters? Because I tried to listen to, like, another chapter, and it's like, well, maybe there's some important shit. And you just talk about squids. It's like, this fucking sucks. It fucking sucks.
Now, but though, can you say that you finished Moby Dick? Like, can you put that in the complete, on the shelf?
I am. I gave it 1 star. I was going to give it 2 stars, but then I said, fuck you, Melville. I'll give it 1 star. No, because the first half of Moby Dick is like 4 books in length, it seems like. I don't like it. What are you doing?
The thing fell.
Nitro.
Why is your ass on everything?
I had such high hopes for the Dick of Moby, and I thought, oh, surely all these reviewers are just either, they just can't comprehend the vast greatness of Herman Melville's prose. I will say the writing style was pretty cool, and there was a lot of unique themes and stuff in it, but I just goddamn, it's boring.
Just couldn't handle it, could ya?
The girth. I could have finished it, I just would have been very unhappy for a long time. And now I'm questioning that fabulous collection of classics I have right there, because I was looking at them, I'm like, well, which one of these is going to bore me to tears?
Oh, so you may be finally coming to my side?
No.
Of the
But I did read a lot more modern novels during the time I was reading Moby Dick, but I look over like Anna Karenina, and I'm like, that's pretty girthy. Les Miserables, blah, blah. I don't even want to read that. Fuck off, Hugo. It's too good. Look how girthy that is.
The Count of Monte Cristo, that's a biggie, too.
I heard a lot of people say it's really good, though. I haven't heard anything negative about the Count. Dracula as well. I think Dracula will be good.
Have you read The Odyssey and yet?
I've read The Odyssey first. I've read The Odyssey, but that's the first one, right? Or is it the Iliad's first?
Well, it says Iliad and then...
Yeah, I think I read the Iliad. Whatever the first fucking part of his adventure is, that's what I read a long time ago. It was pretty good, but it's like an epic poem. I have to be in the mood for those. And it's hard to read like a really, really long epic poem.
So that's the carpet there? That's the copy of Moby Dick?
Yep.
That
bookmark is still on chapter 62. That's where it'll stay.
Oh, you're just leaving the bookmark? Fuck that bookmark.
Why is it you can read like the first few chapters, get the sense of the story, and skip straight to the end, and you don't miss anything? That's what fucking pissed me. I'm gonna watch the movie this weekend, the Gregory Peck version from the 50s.
Oh, okay.
That'll
honestly, because I think Thor just had one, didn't he?
I watched that, The Heart of the Sea. It looked like a Moby Dick movie, but the names are different when I was reading the thing, so it's like a different adventure. And they're on the Essex, which is not the Pequod. But this is why Moby Dick. But you know what, I must say, out of all the classics I've read, that's the only one that's really burned me so far. Because it's very rare. No, that's not true. The first one that burned me, I finished it, but it's just because it's very short. Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. So verbose, so boring, and very racist. Just like the trifecta of, I don't want to read this.
Well, that seems to be a heavy theme a lot of times now as we go back into these literary classics.
Now, I do have some Huckleberry Finn I want to jump into because I like Tom Sawyer so much. I got Robin Hood, which I want to read.
Yeah, that was something I've always wanted to check out. But is that like poems too?
No.
Okay.
No. That's just old-timey medieval style, but they made it so you could understand. It's not like the original Canterbury Tales where you try to read it and you're like, what is this? It's English, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's like incomprehensible.
It's English, not English.
Yeah.
It's not American.
It's not right. It's not even England English. It's old-timey.
Well, that's like I always wanted to check out, when we've talked about it before, like the authors, the King Arthur stuff.
I have the Knights of the Round Table stuff.
But then that's like poems and stuff too, isn't it?
No, it's just, again, old-timey. But I think that has more of a poetic feel to it. I perused its pages, and I was going to read that as one of my in-between books, but because it's not that long. But I read some of the reviews online, which I probably should stop doing. And they said that all the stories are kind of similar.
I'm saying now, would you read that and then still read Steinbeck's
Yeah, I want to read the Steinbeck. I'll have to get back to the ear read this, guys. Because I told them, we're moving podcast stuff. And what else is on that show? Anything that piques your interest, Spencer? Besides what we already mentioned.
And we've talked about it before. I always wanted, and it's not necessarily literary, it's just a cool book you have on the shelf there. It was the Hitchhiker's Guide, but I've always heard after the guy died, and was it his son who finished it?
I read the first 3, or maybe the first 2.5. One of them I gave up halfway through because it was just kind of stupid.
Okay.
And I would assume after that it got pretty shitty. The first 2 are really good.
See, and I just heard that...
Yeah, after Douglas Adams died, I think
it just didn't, finish right, So I just didn't know if that was something that I wanted to embark on.
We also got the Sherlock Holmes collection, which... That's just very girthy, but I would like to get into that because I used to enjoy those stories when I was a wee boy.
Yeah, maybe that's something we should do because remember I picked up that collection of Sherlock Holmes, some Sherlock Holmes stories too.
Well, I do want to, like we were talking off air, I want to knock out a James Bond, like the first one.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be the book cast. And then I do want to do Dracula for Halloween time.
Okay.
Maybe another horror. We got the Gothic collections over there. I can find something.
Maybe I'll try to bang out Dracula and
Don't even say it.
and Frankenstein.
Frankenstein?
Since you've read it already.
Old Frankenstein was very close to Moby Dick for me in that
you didn't
I was
like it.
bored. I did not. I liked the monster, and I did not like Frankenstein. Dr. Frankenstein was a fucking fainting woman. Like, he was written how damsels in distress always are, constantly fainting and sick.
Now, can you give that a little bit of a leeway considering it was a female who wrote it and was maybe tired of, like, women always being portrayed like that, maybe?
Perhaps, but there's also speculation that she did not write the book.
Oh, no?
They say that her husband might have written Frankenstein, and she got the credit because reasons. I don't know, and I really don't care. I wouldn't brag about writing the modern Prometheus because it's the adaptations that made Frankenstein cool, not the actual Frankenstein.
Yeah. And I don't, this is just my ignorance, but did she ever do anything else other than Frankenstein? Like anything at least, people would know?
I think she did some shows in Tijuana, maybe? Some illicit...
I meant writing. Writing, Caleb. I meant writing.
I don't know what Mary Shelley did. Yeah, I probably should know that. I don't know if she wrote anything. I think she did. I think this cold open's gone on long enough. Once we start getting into what's the phrase there? Not animal erotica.
Interspecies erotica?
That would be it. Yeah, once we start getting into classic literature and interspecies erotica.
Fucko.
Kinky Kelly. Howdy, y'all. This is the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast that you are listening to, hopefully on purpose.
If not, you're still welcome.
Yeah. I'm hoping the sound quality is a little better on this episode than it was the last one. We're still figuring out our mic situation because going to the new podcast studio with all this insulation and everything being quiet, it's hard to... Because I can't use the same audio levels.
Yeah.
So when I do the edits as well, I can't do the same edits I did last time because I think last time I talked a little too close to the mic because that's what we normally had to do because of all the background noise. And I had to, I think the bass and treble was a little too high. So hopefully this episode will be a little, better. And we'll figure it out as we go along because we don't know how to do professional.
No.
It's too weird. We probably need new mics too. These mics suck.
Well, I mean, it almost took us 100 episodes at the old place to finally get into like, all right, I think we got a thing down. I think we're doing good.
Doing good. Anyway, my name, I'm the host, I guess. I'm always the host. Maybe one day you'll be the host. But for now, I'm the host.
I mean, I feel like even if I was the host, you'd still probably be more the heavy lifting anyways. It'd just be kind of
as long as I'm the guy pressing the buttons, I guess I have to be the host, right?
I mean... the only way I'd just be like host and name and name only.
Give you one of those long mics, long skinny mics like the old game shows.
I'd definitely rock one of those.
Yeah, but I'm Caleb James, as always. With me, Spencer, the Boston Brown Bagger Church. Could be a good thing,
but probably not.
You're giving people a chance. Maybe you put the brown bag on your own head,
or maybe I'm just a drunk.
You could be a drunk. Yeah, you could be brown bagging booze. Brown bagging doesn't have to be a negative. Sometimes you don't want people to see that you're just sipping Pepto-Bismol all day because you got issues. Today's episode is about something or other. Ooh, I feel like we covered something along the lines, but I looked through and I couldn't find an episode on this. But...
I mean, I'm sure we breezed on this topic before, but as I just alluded, over 100 episodes with everything together, so guys, give us a break.
Yeah. Either way, it'll be fun. 10 epidemically overrated books. This is written in 2012, so the fact they used the word epidemically, just coincidence.
Yeah.
This was written by Emily Temple over at Flavorwire, and like I said, 2012, so we're just kind of taking the list here. But overrated classic literature, as you listen to that wonderful cold open, is something that's been on my mind since I fake completed the book that is Moby Dick. I feel like one of those marathon runners that hopped in a cab and then got out at the end and just ran across the line and everyone's like, oh my god, new record. There's a woman who did that in the Boston Marathon or New York Marathon some time ago. What are you doing, Nitro? Nitro's all hot and bothered because Mindy's upstairs. Doesn't like it.
He's fine to just hang out.
He was good last podcast.
Whenever, it was just us, just the boys.
Just the boys and twins. But the first book on this list, and even though you haven't read it, Spencer, I think you will agree somehow. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger.
I've heard nothing but terrible things.
If you guys want a more in-depth listen or knowledge of sorts of how we feel about this book, not Spencer specifically, but me and my other co-conspirator Ashley Hatter, we did an inebriated reading challenge on this, I believe, right? I think that's what it was, on The Catcher in the Rye, and we only managed 2 episodes because did not like it. It wasn't the worst book I've ever read by any means, but it was definitely overrated. The article, though, says, whenever we tell people that we didn't like The Catcher in the Rye, they immediately demand, well, when did you read it? The prevailing wisdom, after all, is that it's one of those novels you have to read at the right time. That is, the pinnacle of your own self-pitying, frustrated-filled adolescence in order to... Yeah. The main thing is people say you have to read The Catcher in the Rye when you're an angsty teen or you're a young, angsty 20-year-old.
That kind of seems like the wrong time.
Well, that's apparently when you can relate to Holden Caulfield, the protagonist of Catcher in the Rye, because he's a little whiny douche. The whole book, he's just bitching about everything, and he fucking is kind of annoying, and he's a very privileged white boy, and I don't really care for it. Of course, the book does have its merit, apparently, but why do high school and young men everywhere revere this tale of the wonderlings of a bitter, privileged slacker so much? This font's fucking italics.
Well, can they even read it in high school now? I thought that was one of those banned books.
One of the stupid reasons, like, why was it banned? Because it has a hooker in it that he doesn't even have sex with?
Is that why?
I don't know. He gets punched in the stomach and cries by a pimp.
You didn't want to kill anybody afterwards?
I wanted to shoot Reagan a little bit, but that's just because I didn't really like Ronald Reagan. His acting was terrible. He's like a square head. Of course, Kyle from South Park once complained when they had the episode about Catcher in the Rye, which caused them to publish the fancy Scrody McBooger balls. But Kyle said Holden is just some whiny, annoying teenager talking about how lame he is. And that's pretty much all you need to know about Catcher in the Rye. You don't have to read it. I wouldn't. I didn't want to. But I did for you guys, and I can't say I was a huge fan. Next up, this is one people read just to pretend that they either can read or they're, superior intelligently. They think they're have a superior intelligence and they're super smarty and they went to fucking Yale and everybody likes them because they're on the polo team. I don't know. Fucking everybody says they like Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce, apparently. But that's one of those books we've done readings of the first paragraph on here because it's indecipherable. The whole book's like that. You just can't fucking read Finnegan's Wake. I don't care who you are. You're not going to understand it.
I feel like that's one of those things, you could read it, you just can't, you won't have any comprehension when you get to the end. It's I read some words, but I can't really remember what they were and what happened.
It's almost like he wrote it as a troll job, but I think he spent 19 years reading it or something. Writing it. There's also book club book group things or whatever. I don't know. Some kind of book groups around the country. It's like a big thing where they read Finnegan's Wake and they try to break it down. And it's like some of these clubs have gone on for 20, 30, 40 years of them breaking down this one shitty book.
What?
Because it's so indecipherable. It's almost like the people that are addicted to solving those crypto things, like the Zodiac Killer letters and stuff, we gotta solve this, but they never consider what if the Zodiac Killer just did gibberish and there is no code. It's not something you can decipher. What if fucking Finnegan's Wake is just made up bullshit? Very possible, because James Joyce was a smart man, but he also liked his
we know what he likes.
Look back through a few episodes. You'll find that topic quite interesting if you're a little lowbrow. Try to keep this highbrow since it's classic literature.
Not all of it.
I know, I skimmed through myself.
Not all of it.
But anyway, just to give you a little more of the Finnegan's Wake, why is the book considered one of the most classic romances of all time? I didn't even know it was a romance.
Was there fighting in it?
Maybe. All of the characters are despicable and cruel to one another. The plot is awkwardly structured, and it's all very boring and depressing. Again, that's probably all you need to know about this book. It's not... I would say find a PDF online and just read the first page, and that'll be pretty much all you need, because it'll tell you what kind of person you are. If you're the kind of person like, I need to know what this is, like I need to solve this puzzle, then that might be up your alley. If you're a normal person that doesn't like doing that stuff,
you're sane,
then you're just gonna be like, this is fucking stupid. Of course, if you're really high on mushrooms, you might find...
I'm gonna say maybe this is one of those ones you have to listen to, maybe.
I feel really bad for whoever had to do audio version of Finnegan's Wake, because he just made up like Irish slang and American or like English slang and put them together and just made up words, and but not like an Anthony Burgess, Clockwork Orange making up words, like making up shit that's just stupid. I don't know why it's there. Next up, what the fuck is this book? White Noise by Don DeLillo. We hate to say it, but we expected more from this novel. After everyone and their skinny jean-clad sisters suggested we read it. The concept is good, and there are a few scenes that stick with us, but as a whole, we found it disappointingly plotless. We suggest Mile 2 instead. They didn't even say what that book was about.
I'd say you skipped one, too.
Oh, I have a big block. What did I skip?
Ooh.
There's another one we both talked about, maybe one day possibly even entertaining the slightest idea of just maybe squeezing in there and then just kind of possibly opening up a page and ripping off the first couple paragraphs and then maybe reading that because we just don't care about it at all. That we would rather go through all that trouble of not even opening up the book all the way to rip off part of the page just so we don't have to accidentally read more of this book than we want. But it's Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. My classic book club group fucking talks about this book so much, and the Bronte sisters so much, and I'm just like, why? What was so good about some fucking ladies having a hard time thinking about getting married? That's pretty much what it's about, right?
I don't know. I didn't see. I don't.
Jane Austen, Jane Eyre, all these fucking lady books. I don't want to like just put anybody in a box here and say it's lady books, because I feel like modern ladies probably don't give a shit about these books anymore. But at one time, these were like the top notch literature.
I'd say this was the Hallmark Channel for back then.
Apparently, or either that or the saucy 50 Shades of Grey back then. I don't know. Why is this book considered one of the most classic romances of all time? All of the characters are despicable and... Wait a minute. Oh, I read that under Finnegan's Wake. Boy, am I confusing people. So what I said about Finnegan's Wake about it being a romance, again, I was like, why was that a romance? It's not a romance. This is Wuthering Heights. So Wuthering Heights is the boring, depressing book with all the despicable characters that is terrible and, again, boring. So do you ever plan on reading that book, Spencer?
No, probably not.
You don't even want to dabble?
Mm.
Don't even want to open up the page a little and just... Can you name a character from that book?
No.
What are the other one? Jane Austen? Or Jane Eyre? Which one's the... Jane Austen's the author. Or is Jane Eyre the...
Isn't it Jane Austen?
Jane Austen's the author. Jane Eyre's the book.
So wait, she named a character almost her exact name? Almost?
I don't know. Did she fucking write Jane Eyre? Or was that one of the Bronte sisters?
You're the literary guy.
Emily and Charlotte Bronte...
You're the literary guy. I'm the comic book Stephen King guy. Like, we have our roles, Caleb.
All right. I'm going to do a mild research. I always get that confused, and I've looked this up multiple times. I just don't care. Jane Austen is the novelist. So I was just testing you, Spencer.
Okay.
Oh, she wrote Pride and Prejudice. That's the other one I always forget about. And the only way they were able to make that interesting is by doing Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yeah.
Oh, she wrote Sense and Sensibility, too. I always... Like, these are all the same book to me. Wuthering Heights, Sense and Sensibility. They're all the same exact book. There's no difference to me. Well, who's the other one? The Bronte sisters. Emily Bronte. Because I'm just going to go ahead and say I have overrated books, all of these.
Just keep going. Just going to add these onto the list, folks.
So Emily Bronte did Wuthering Heights and then just a bunch of poems. And Charlotte Bronte, I think, was she the more famous one? Sorry if everybody finds this excessively boring. I do as well, but she wrote Jane Eyre. Charlotte Bronte wrote Jane Eyre. So when we have like 6 months from now when we're doing another classic literature episode and we bring up this exact same topic and fuck it up exactly the same. At least we can go back and know.
You should probably just bookmark those in your phone.
So what was not... Wait a minute. No, yeah. So White Noise was the next one, and that didn't have really a description. Now this one, because I like Dharma Bums, I liked it well enough. So I actually want to read this one, On the Road by Jack Kerouac. Yeah. But apparently a lot of people said they don't like this book. And he wrote it on like a scroll. Like he wrote it, like if you look, they have it in a museum. It's just like the length of this whole room, just one piece of paper. It's like, where'd you get that? Seems like that'd be a hard thing to get back then.
And did you, if you messed up, did you just start all over with a new huge sheet?
new scroll. Yeah? You alright? You lay down, buddy.
Take a nap.
Yeah, you're alright. Oh, he's fake scratching. He does that when he wants to get out. Alright, so anyway, On the Road. We're afraid we mostly agree with Truman Capote, who when asked about On the Road, famously sniffed, "That's not writing, it's typing." Again, we definitely get how this novel made a splash with its uncommon form and call to freedom. This book was basically, like I said, I didn't read this one, but it's like Dharma Bums. It's like kind of a Hunter S. Thompson-esque, telling you like kind of a biographical fiction. Now On the Road might be, I still think that's fiction too. Like I think the characters are, it's like Jack Kerouac, but not Jack Kerouac. Like how Fear and Loathing was Hunter S. Thompson, but obviously Hunter S. Thompson was way more entertaining and made up shit, whereas Kerouac, I think, just pretty much described what the fuck happened to him and just changed some names. And so I can see how that's kind of boring. It really comes down to, are you interested in that guy's life? He was a drunk who just did random shit, hitchhiked across the country. It was kind of entertaining.
It seems like it'd be maybe a good character study.
Mm-hmm. I think the main thing people like, usually, again, like Catcher in the Rye, young men, they like it because
young angsty men.
Angsty men. And this is all men. We tend to get this urge of freedom where we just gotta go in the woods. We just gotta go out and do something. We just gotta do some man shit. We gotta go on a road trip. Stuff like that. That's pretty much like Jack Kerouac is. He's like a Jack London without the adventuring and more drinking.
And say, do you remember the time whenever you transferred from like angsty to just angry? Just like mad all the time,
26.
26.
Yeah. It's 26. The next book on this list holds a special place in my heart because I love it so much. It's my favorite book. This is the best book I've ever read. I feel like I feel like I was the author of this book because it touched me so deeply.
See, I was wondering for whenever you sent me this link, and I was looking through it and I saw that, I was like, I wonder. I wonder.
Moby Dick by Herman Melville. Apparently this was Matilda's favorite book.
Now, will you read anything else from him?
No.
In fear of...
No, I do not care for Herman Melville. And from now on, every time I read somebody who just overwrote something like so horrendously that it's just boring as shit, I'm going to say they did a Melville.
I don't know why that's so funny, what it is.
You better watch yourself, Spencer. You don't want to accidentally pull a Melville. Is there any chance that this book would get across an editor's desk in its current state today? Absolutely not, because it's fucking hardly a book.
I think we know why this article was picked and this topic.
We think not. All the good stuff is buried under Melville's endless self-indulgent verbiage. In our literary culture, the book has become a behemoth. Actually, that's a word I should use. To slay in itself. And such a quest would obviously be cheapened by skipping all the bits about the specifics of whaling tools. But that said, wouldn't it actually be a better book if those were left out? It would be a way better book if all of that was left out. I don't need to know how to be a whaler to enjoy a story about whaling.
Yeah.
Who published that? Like, how was that published? Was it just a straight novel, or was fucking Moby Dick published in like magazine form? Because that would be going on for years.
I mean, that would maybe be some of the reason of why, because you're just coming up with things just to fill up for like each month to get paid.
Fucking dickhead. Yeah, but imagine if you're the editor of the magazine, you just get, another chapter about this one's just like a dictionary of just telling you single paragraph after a heading of what each whale is. Sperm whale, a whale that's grayish and has a, killer whale. Like, he literally just had a whole chapter where it was just like reading a dictionary. Just, you got the definition of each whale of what it is. Fucking boring. Next up is A Passage to India by E.M. Forster. This is one of the few points on which we agree with Jonathan Franzen. I don't know who that is. We know that at the time of its publication, its discussion of race relations was incendiary. Incendiary, Spencer, is the word. 3 tries, you get it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem so now, and the retroactive knowledge of it just doesn't make up for the thin characters and plotting plot. I've heard of that book, but I've never really had interest in reading it because it just sounded like it would be really racist to me. For some reason, like, English dude, I assume that guy's English, writing about, like, India and stuff back in the days where they were trying to take over India, you tend to get a lot of racism. The next one is... Now, this is your personal favorite, right? I
mean, should we even bother talking about this one? I mean...
Why is this on this list? I assume this was a classic novel list. Well, this one is the great Gregorian epic known as Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. We really don't think we have to explain this one to you. Okay, yeah, they don't even explain. Stephanie Meyer, whatever the fuck, Wiener, she created sparkling vampires and took like any mystique vampires have about them that makes them cool and took that away. Anything that made werewolves cool, no, let's give them abs. Like, it just poop.
Let's just make them do a big wolf.
The reason this book would make any list like this isn't because it's considered a good book by anybody. I don't think anybody considers this a good book or a series. It's just because it got so popular.
Well, I mean, the Twilight fans would,
If you go on the old Goodreads, all the people who read Twilight, most of them when they were kids, they've gone back and reviewed it and were like, this is fucking awful. I don't know why I like this so much. It's because your brain wasn't fully formed.
It might have been one of the first things you've read.
What is it? Your frontal lobe or cortex or something doesn't fully form until you're like 27, 25. Yeah. Now, this one I do not agree with, and I want to slap this lady for including this on the list. The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And I've done polls, and a lot of people have said they hated The Great Gatsby, so I get it. Oh, I don't like jazz culture of the 20s. Rich people problems. But I like The Great Gatsby. Oh, put away your pitchforks. She already knows. She already knows that she's entering danger. This is one of them controversial picks you got to throw in there to get the clickbait. We know this is a great book. The prose is impeccable and the setting of the mood divine. But we just don't think that it's truly that be-all, end-all epitome of the great American novel as everyone seems to claim, or at least it's not anymore. So what she's saying is, it's one of the best books ever written, but nowadays maybe doesn't hold up to being the best book ever written because it's 2020, it's 100 years later, and things are different. So I give them that stupid idea.
See, that... And, like, I've never read it, but I've just, like, seen people make fun of it and stuff, but just of it being, like, kind of convoluted and... But you didn't have, like, any problem with, like, the story or, like, how things went or stuff like that?
Story's pretty straightforward. Gatsby calls everybody old sport, which I love. And, the little verbose at times. That's kind of the writing style of the time. But other than that, I think it holds up. Aces.
Maybe that'd be one of those ones I have to check out and throw my.
It's not very long. Yeah, it's not very. If it was a longer book, like 300 plus pages or whatever, it probably would be poopy because it'd be too long. But Fitzgerald kept it. I think it's only a couple hundred pages or something. He kept it moderate. It wasn't like overwhelming. And is this the final one? Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. Never heard of this one, have you?
No.
Several people we knew in college were obsessed with this novella, a spiritual classic about unlocking your potential. As a seagull, and it had an impressive run topping the New York Times bestseller list in the 70s. Everybody's on fucking drugs. But it just never quite resonated with us. We prefer our allegories slightly more disguised, thank you. Now, this lady who wrote this article, she keeps saying us, as in, like, the website, or...
That's what I would think.
I don't know. As always... We're going to end this episode by talking about books we think are overrated. Because that's more fun than that. Maybe I'll just chop all that out. The whole episode, just chop it out. Just be like, it would be all real herky-jerky, just like, Twilight, Herman, Moby Dick. Like, it's just real shitty. Books that are overrated.
See, you probably have this more than me because, like, I've, like, in my reading, like, there's, like, I know mostly the things that I enjoy and like to read. So, like, that's what I read. And, you know, very rarely, you know, jump out to, you know.
We both kind of suffer the same, well, not really suffer, but we both have a similar problem in that we don't generally read books that are, not, I wouldn't say bestsellers, but books that are super popular in pop culture. Like, we didn't read Harry Potter. Obviously, we didn't read Twilight or 50 Shades. The closest we would get is, like, the, you know, Stephen King books.
Yeah.
But I mean, most of his books that were really at the top of their game were before we were born.
Yes.
So it doesn't really, you can't really count that. Now, I've read some Neil Gaiman books that were more modern, but I really liked them. I can't say any of them were overrated. I've liked all the ones I've read of his. I think All Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe was overrated. I don't think that's, like, I haven't read a lot of African literature, but I don't see why that would be the number one greatest African literature book of all time. Like, I get, you know, if it was one of, like, the first big ones, I understand that. They get worldwide recognition, but I don't think that constitutes, you know, out of all the African writers, you're telling me that's the top of the, you know, top of the crop. I would say anything by Shakespeare. You ever read some Shakespeare, man?
Not really, no, because it's one of those, like, it's so hard to read. It almost needs, like, the Bible treatment of just, like, somebody going through it and changing all the thous to, like, theirs, or, you know, whatever you need.
Simple it up.
Whatever you need to get through the book.
Simplify it a lot. I mean, Frankenstein, I would say, I don't know if I could say it's overrated, because how many people really read the original Frankenstein? H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah.
I would say, like, the Cthulhu stuff and everything that we're led to believe is, like, super awesome. I would say that's overrated because the monsters are clearly awesome, but the prose itself.
And, like, I've read almost 30% of H.P. Lovecraft, and, like, there's been hardly any Cthulhu. Like, you know what I mean? There's only, like, a couple slight stories that deal with that stuff.
From what I remember, Cthulhu only has one story where he's the main guy, and I don't even think he really shows up in it.
Not really,
no. Call of Cthulhu, I don't think he's really in that. He's like, it's just about him. About, like, a guy, you know. It's, like, really cool, but that wasn't...
Definitely does not have enough Necronomicon in it.
No, enough Necronomicon. See, I really like Tom Sawyer, so I can't say that's overrated. I really like Dune. You need to read Dune, too.
But see, like... Because I'm like you, who's like, oh, I can read this one book.
You'd have to read the whole series.
Of this series. I'm eventually, like, I'm going to have to, like, read that. Especially if I like the first book. Like, you know what I mean? I'm going to have to try to, you know.
See, the reason why I was able to do that with Dune, though, is because the way Dune's written, it could be a standalone book.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a huge cliffhanger at the end where you're like, oh, I gotta read the next one.
It's not that. It's just me knowing
that universe you wanna...
like I said, especially because, like, all I've ever heard of Dune is, like, good things, so I'd assume that it seems like it'd be, like, up my alley of things that I would like. So once reading that one and realizing, oh, I do like this... Give me all the others. Like, I'm almost kind of worried like that with, like, the James Bonds, too. Like, if I really like the James Bonds novels, like, I got, like, another 20 books I gotta try to read.
Well, I thought that was gonna happen when I read The Big Sleep. I thought, like, uh-oh, am I gonna read all these? And I kind of want to still, but it was just at the level where I'm like, I'm alright if I don't read the other ones.
It can wait. Yeah, it can wait.
Now, like, if you read Hitchhiker's Guide, you're going to want to read them all.
Yeah.
But then you get to the sucky ones, you're like, okay. I worried, like, that's why I didn't get into The Expanse, because that's, series, I guess. I mean, series that really you have to keep reading.
Yeah.
Where, like I said, Dune, you could just read the one, and you're like, oh, that's classic, and you don't really have to read the other ones, but, like, obviously, Lord of the Rings, The Expanse, things like that, you kind of have to read the whole series. Same with Game of Thrones. You talked about this previously, where you're like, hey... I would love to read them, but I know I'm going to get to the end, and then you don't have the last book out.
Yeah, George R. Martin's not going to be fucking writing. He's too busy, like, writing, like, a video game or one of his other things again, like, adapted for, like, a sci-fi show or something like that. So finish the goddamn book or books, whatever it is. You had, like, 20 years.
Fucking jerk. What have you been doing all this time?
I think the time between, like, the last book that got published to this book, I think has been, like, most of our lives.
Yeah.
Like,
it's ridiculous.
Because I think it was, like, in the 90s, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the early 90s.
The 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea I thought was overrated.
Oh, you didn't like that?
No, I liked it.
But you don't think it was...
It suffered fucking, now this could be the translation too. Cause, who the hell wrote that? No, tip of my tongue. Wrote a story about a balloon. Fuck. Just read it. It's right there. The Dirty Frenchman. It's blue. Dark blue. Why can't I remember his name? Jules Verne. Yes, you know. Fucking tunnel in the middle of the earth, all that stuff. Jules Verne, he was a Frenchman, so it was translated, but he kind of pulled a Melville in that there's a lot of... Well, he has like a lot of scientific jargon about sea creatures, so there's chapters where you're like, I don't have to read this. And it's not that long of a book to begin with.
I was going to say, is that whole thing, is that or is that like a collection of his
No,
stuff?
That's just the one story.
Do you think maybe, because it seems like those stories back then have a lot of that in there. Do you think maybe a lot of that is because, like, you know, information
was so scarce back then?
Like, you know what I mean? So, like, you putting that stuff in your novel, people might actually be like, oh, that's kind of cool and interesting. To, like, we learned this in the 2nd grade. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I guess if you're starved for information about the world around you, you probably were finding it in literature. So.
Because like to jump back to the H.P. Lovecraft thing, like granted, like we both think he's a little overblown, but like one of the things that I do like is like him like at that time throwing in all these different things from different like countries and stuff.
Yeah,
it did make me like reading them. I'm like, how does he know this? Like, what did he do to, like, where did he have to...
Because he didn't even leave his house. How did he get this information? Just go to the library, I guess. I don't know. That's a good question.
But you didn't even think, like, what would libraries in New England during the 20s, what books would they have about, like ancient, like, Sumerian, like, culture and shit like that?
I don't know. I forget. Did he go to college? I don't remember. It's not like he traveled. He didn't. That's a good question how he got all that information, unless he just made it up. That'd be amazing, too. Ooh, Notes from the Underground by Dostoevsky. I definitely would say that's overrated because the first half of that makes you want to rage quit because it's just a guy ranting. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Everyone said that's like one of the top books of all time, and I found the story engaging enough that I liked it, but I found the prose fucking terrible for the most part. Kafka. I
thought you liked Kafka.
I liked The Hunger Artist, and I liked Metamorphosis, but I don't see, like, again, overrated is not saying we don't like these people or their work or anything. Overrated is just saying, like, these are supposed to be the top of the heap. These are the best things, that were ever written. Like, Metamorphosis is one of those things, we talked about Kafka-esque, and not, like, some of his stories were kind of boring. The writing was good, but I don't see why it would be considered like one of the greatest things ever written. He didn't even like it.
Well, then say, do you think maybe that has to play with because he's like one of those guys that didn't get famous until like after he died?
Yeah.
So you think maybe that had something to,
That seems to happen a lot to those kind of guys, like obviously Lovecraft and, but I mean, Kafka, he wanted to, burn all of his work. He didn't want it to be released ever.
What would you say about like the Conan stories?
It's hard to say because when people talk about Conan, they never actually talk about the original stories. That's what we read. They talk about the comics or the movies. So I mean, I liked them. I would say they're rated just fine. What about The War of Art?
I've never.
We read that. We read it on there. Is that what that book's called?
Oh, the
Yeah, The War of Art by Pressfield.
I was thinking
The Art of War.
Yeah.
No, The War of Art.
I mean, yeah, I think when we talked about when we reviewed it, the first like 3/4 of that book
really good.
I really enjoyed it, and then like that last quarter got kind of wonky for me. But definitely still like I think it's something like if you're writing or just anything really, and you need some help trying to get you through that grind, I'd definitely say check it out.
Yeah, I liked that book a lot until just it got to like the spiritual stuff that wasn't up my alley. What would you say? We'll shift gears to end this episode. Underrated books you've read, books that you think should have been way more popular than they were.
Again, this is like I'm still very limited in my my overall scope of things, like because like I'm like 2 or 3 Stephen King books away from being done with him, which will then open up more, reading opportunities and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of some of the stuff that we've read that I thought that I really liked.
See, it's hard because like we covered like indie things like Hair of the Dog. I thought was really good. Now we haven't finished that whole trilogy. I think he's actually still writing that. That was Matt Holland, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, so check that book out, people. But or those books rather. But yeah, Hair of the Dog was really good. But again, it's an indie book, so it's hard to say. Yeah. I mean, can you say something's underrated if it's not traditionally published or well known? I would say that's a hard no because it doesn't have enough eyes on it.
Yeah.
See, it's hard for me to say like some of the Neil Gaiman books I've read would be underrated, like Stardust or what was that one I just read of his Lake at the End of the Street or something? Ocean at the End of the something or other. Because once you get to a Stephen King, Neil Gaiman level, it's never gonna be underrated because people are, like you'll get like Stephen King books where like it's an underrated Stephen King book or underrated movie based on a Stephen King book just because he's had so many things up at the top.
It's not. It doesn't get the heat that like the It or the Sting.
Yeah.
Like to go with the Stephen King model, there's this book that he did from a Buick 8. Just this weird couple 100-page story about like this police in a small Maine town years ago found this Buick abandoned at a gas station. And so they take it into the, to the garage there at the police station. And, like, every so often, like, the trunk opens up to, like, this weird dimensional thing where, like, animals fly out. And it's just, it's this weird kind of thing. And, like, I thought that was kind of, like, enjoyable. And, like, I never really remember, like, I would see, like, on the bookshelves of, like, going through, like, oh, that's some, I'm going to eventually read that. But, like, I never really got, hear too many people talking about that.
Mm-hmm. See, but again, the guy that has so much popularity, not everything can just be up the top. I would say, before we go on with that, where would you rank Of Mice and Men? Do you think that earns the, critical acclaim it has? I really liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I enjoyed reading it. I don't know if it, like, that now, though, too, might be another thing of just from time and age might eventually get pushed out. But, I mean, like, it's written great. And, like, it also, whenever I got around to like actually reading it, I knew everything.
Yeah, you already knew the whole story.
Yeah, because the movie does an actual really good job of of adaptation of the book and stuff like that. But I would definitely think that would be up there. It definitely earns its chops still.
2 things I'll say are overrated in my opinion. I Am Legend, because I read the original novel. And I did not think that it's a cool story, and it's mainly like the twist ending that gets you.
Yeah.
But I don't see that as a superior vampire story that should be, up in the echelons of pop culture.
Like got made into
movies
10 different movies already.
And the second one, which actually this is a novel, so I don't know if this counts, but I just don't think The Walking Dead is like top tier, like everyone always, didn't deserve to be. I can't say anything deserves to be anything. It's just my opinion, but I don't see how it became like such a super pop culture phenomenon when we've had zombie stories for so long. The TV show, I watched like the first 2 seasons, and they were pretty good for a while, but it's hard to say when there's a genre of something that's so overdone to begin with. Yeah. And then you have something that, like, because they did that with vampires, too, because you had, like, the Anne Rice books, the Chronicles of the Vampire, or whatever, Vampire Chronicles, or whatever they are. I've never read those, either. I don't even think I watched the movie. The Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise.
Oh, yeah.
Interview with the Vampire, yeah. Those, again, not a vampire guy, which is funny, because we're going to read Dracula, the original awesome vampire.
Well, that's Nosferatu. That's,
Spencer, was he a book? Or was he a novel? Or was he a book first, or just the movie?
Who?
Nosferatu. He was a silent film.
Yeah. But I thought, didn't they pull that from Dracula? No, because the Dracula's not all creepy looking.
No, Dracula's a sexy man.
Yeah.
He's got nice eyes. Creamy complexion. Vanilla silken robes he wears around. Unless you go with the Gary Oldman one with the big hair. Then I don't know. I think I'm done with this topic.
If you think of any books that are over or underrated, you can let us know.
We could do a whole episode just underrated books that we actually research. Because there's a lot out there. I just can't think of them. Because there's a lot I've read where I was like, why is this not more popular? But it's hard when I read so much classic literature because obviously it's not going to be underrated if it's considered a classic.
Yeah.
Things on that shelf over there would probably be considered. See, that's hard to say because a lot of those are different languages. If you folks want to see us naked.
Whoa. Fan only.
You can go to the DPW fan only where you see. Actually, we just spend most of our time grilling on the grill. Out there flipping burgers and in the nude. Tasteful nudes. No, if you want to see stuff that we do, you can go to the drunkenpenwriting.com website. Wait, what am I doing, man? Halloween submission season's open.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, fuck, I got shit to promote. No, go to Drunken Pen Writing because we are open for Halloween submissions, poems, short stories.
And we get a lot of them, so get them in there.
Yeah, that's why I did it earlier this year because we get so many that last year I had to turn people away just because I couldn't keep up. The rules are on the site. I don't feel like explaining them all because there's a lot. It's not a lot of rules, but the guidelines, which you must follow because now we're to the point where we get so many submissions that if you don't follow the guidelines, I'm going to fucking reject your ass. And by reject, I mean not even read it. You could go to our Twitter at Drunk Pen Writing, Instagram, Drunken Pen Writing, Facebook, Drunken Pen Writing B-Boys, where we do some dancing and spinning, cool shit, graffiti. We could do anything because Facebook, you just yell at people, right?
Yeah.
Well, Twitter, you just yell at people too. But Facebook, you got longer paragraphs to yell at people. I like yelling.
You're getting read a whole novel.
You upset me, and the way I feel is... I don't know. Anyway, thanks for listening and, saying how nice we are. How our voices are like velvet rubbing on your inner thigh.
Maybe if you just got done like drinking what's the Vanish stuff, like the
shoe polish?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Maybe
kerosene?
We should probably just end.
Bucket of toenail clippings?
Bucket. That's years. That's years.
Depends how fast your toenails grow. I feel like some people have those toenails that just keep growing. You know the ones.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I see where I work.
Yeah. Ew.
People should not be wearing flip-flops.
No, especially when you work in the fucking food section. Okay, bye.